In the recent weeks, we have gotten a lot of information about the Wizard Tower. We also got a huge dump of info with the Hex update. So in this video, I wanted to compile everything we know, and I wanted to speculate a little bit on what is actually going to happen with the Wizard Portal. But before we get to that, I have a huge announcement. We finally got a Hypixel creator code. That's right. If you go to the Hypixel store and use code BANANA at checkout, you can support me, this adorable dog, and both of our needs to get food. I mean, look how cute the dog is, and look how empty my fridge is. Boys, I would really appreciate if you use the code. I couldn't have gotten this without you, so thank you guys for that so much. And remember, better use my code on the Hypixel store. If you don't, then I won't be able to afford food. Code BANANA. Glad you enjoyed that song, but let's get into the Rift or Wizard Tower update. I'm going to refer to it pretty much interchangeably between those two things, Rift and Wizard Tower, because it seems like this is heavily based on a new area called the Rift. And let's just go into what the Rift is exactly. So if you bring a coffee to this person, she's going to say she's selecting books for Barry, anything to do with the Calamity or the Riftway at the top of the mountain. If we go to the top of the mountain, you're going to see this little swirly thing, and that is the Riftway. Going into what this is going to require some knowledge on Skyblock lore. So what happened with Skyblock in the past, way back when, I don't exactly know what the time period is, but there was an event called the Calamity. Most of the NPCs for Skyblock were not around at that time. Some like Jerry were, but the Calamity split the world into the islands that we have today. Before this, it was just a normal, regular planet or like area, whatever you want to call it. It was just regular, and then it became islands. And when the islands were made, this Riftway was formed at the top of the mountain. Later on, also at an unspecified date, the Watcher, the guy in the dungeons who is at the Blood Room, he came out of the Rift. And that is pretty much all we know of the Riftway. We know it's related to the Calamity. We know that something bad is inside of there because the Watcher coming from there means that there's probably not some other great creatures in there. But the Riftway is a very interesting thing, and it seems like the focal point of the update besides the Wizard Tower itself. Going deeper into another NPC that I've spoken about before, Elise is an NPC that talks about tinkering with a new necklace. Based on API leaks from the Hex, it is pretty easily inferred that this is the Rift necklace. This Rift necklace is referred to 3 times in the leaks as an inside necklace and then once as an outside necklace. So it seems like while you are in the Rift, you have a different necklace than while you are out of the Rift. Also, this is backed up by the necklace being described as a very powerful piece of equipment bound to another necklace in the real world. So we're probably going to get a necklace from Elise or just from the beginning of the update that is the default Rift necklace, and then you can upgrade this thing to become better. You can upgrade it to tier 3, and this is going to give you more Rift time, which is not a stat that we can see currently in the game, but we can see in the API. So you're going to see the tier 1 is going to have 10 Rift time, the tier 2 is going to have 60 Rift time, and the tier 3 is going to have 180 Rift time. Now, Rift time is a very interesting stat, to say the least. It's something that implies that we're going to be doing something in a rushed manner because we're going to have a limited amount of time in the Rift. If we look at another recipe from the API, the Leech Belt, this thing is going to be crafted with a Silk Rider safety belt, and this makes it so monster melee attacks reduce 1 less Rift time, meaning that while you're in the Rift, not only are you going to be on a time limit just because of the time limit, you know, just by default, but it's going to be lowered by getting attacked by mobs, and this belt is going to help you decrease that amount that it's lowering by. Now, a bunch of these are crafted with some super weird items that currently don't exist. Hedgehog spine is something that seems to come from a rodent-like creature because contrary to popular belief, hedgehogs aren't rodents. They are in fact mangled wraith remnants of warriors who couldn't find true love. Another material that does exist is the Leech Supreme Fragment. This makes it seem like it is a very vermin-filled area. Leeches, some hedgehogs, which are described as rodent-like. This is a very just mangy and gross area that I'd assume most players don't want to be in. Along with those new materials related to vermin-like creatures, we have something that is a little more interesting in mirrored items. You can see we have a fishing rod spelled backwards, we have bow spelled backwards, we have lead spelled backwards, and they're crafting a tiny hammer spelled backwards. This is just a very weird set of materials from this update. The new stuff related to mobs isn't that crazy, but just seeing this kind of mirrored stuff is a tiny bit interesting. Rodent-like creatures, mirrored things. This sounds like the Stranger Things upside down to me. I'm gonna be completely honest. This is even backed up by talking to Barry. When you talk to Barry, he basically just talks crap on the mayors for a second, and then he says, "They will see when I turn the world upside down." If you haven't watched Stranger Things before, I highly recommend it. Very good show. But there is a portal in Stranger Things, and when you go through it, you enter a world that is similar to their current world. It is quite similar, in fact, that it's literally just the exact same town. But in there's some gross creatures, there's some dust particles going on. It's just a darker, more desolate version of their town. So I wouldn't be surprised if when we enter the Riftway, we will end up in the Skyblock hub. I think that this is even more backed up by a couple of the API items. There's an item called the Key to the Infested House Soul, but in the API, it describes it as the Cat House or the Cat Soul. So that implies that something's going to be going on at this house in the Rift. And there's also the doubloon of the family. And if you didn't know, the seal of the family and just anything related to the family or like the mafia style stuff is going on over here with Lucius and Sirius. So I think that when we enter the Riftway, we're going to come to some place that we feel like we know, but it's going to be overrun with different creatures and dangerous things for a limited time. Now onto wild speculation parts. This is stuff that could be completely wrong, so do not take this as gospel. I'm just going to say what I think is going to go on with this update. One, I think that it's going to be a solo activity, or at least very, very solo friendly. I think one of the biggest problems in Skyblock is the lack of solo content outside of like Slayer and skills. Dungeons is so team forced, and people have struggled with that for a long time. People call Party Finder Monkey Finder for a reason. It's not a blast if you don't have a bunch of friends, and I'm sure that they want to make Skyblock more fun and playable for those solo players. Another thing that I think is going to go on in here is I don't think we're going to be able to take many, if any, of our current items into the Riftway. The reason for this is Hyperion has been dominating every update, and if they keep making updates where people with Hyperion are able to prosper and people without it are just absolutely screwed, the game's not going to be in a great spot. The progression in the game needs something where people can play that isn't just the 6,000 hour players with a lot of stats. The Nether update is super cool, but the amount of comments that I get of people complaining that they just get one shot and cannot kill any of the mobs is insane. So I think that we're going to get a form of progression inside of the Rift, or we aren't going to get that much progression at all, because I think that we're going to get a roguelite style thing in here. I think you're going to go in with basically nothing, and you're going to have to get your items and then get out of the Riftway. If you don't get out, I think that you're going to lose the items, but that could be completely wrong for me. I just kind of like that style of progression. I kind of like that style of play, and I'd love to see how they implement it into Skyblock. One thing that kind of concerns me based on the API leaks as of right now is that there isn't much progressing you outside of the Riftway in the API. This could be just completely inaccurate. We don't know if this is all of the items that are going to be coming in the Wizard Portal update, but right now all of the stuff is pretty much related to rift time and rift damage, and they don't have great stats outside of that, so I'm not seeing a huge reason to play this, but that's probably just inaccurate due to the fact that there's going to be more items than what we've seen in the current Rift update leaks. So yeah, I'm under the belief that we're going to be going to Skyblock's version of the Upside Down for a limited time to try and get some resources, sell them for money, and maybe progress in some aspect of the game. Maybe make the best helmet in the game come from this. Maybe make just one of the best tier items come from this form of progression, and I think this update could absolutely bang. I think that this is one of the more unique concepts that they've made in Skyblock. They do a great job at making unique things in general. I mean, look at dungeons compared to every other Minecraft server that has ever tried to do PvE. It's absolutely insane what Hypixel's able to do when they put their mind to it. So that's what I think is going on with the Wizard Portal Rift update. Let me know down below what you guys think is going to go down with this update. It's not the next update. It's not even within the next 4 planned updates when they're releasing things, but this is happening moderately soon, they said. So by 2037, we're going to have an amazing update where we're going to get to at least go into the Rift. That's a for sure thing. I don't even have to put a speculation disclaimer on that. We're going in the Rift. But that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it kept you informed. Use code BANANA, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace out.